Today on Independent Wrestling Profiles, we're talking with Lionheart Mikey Truth. When did professional wrestling first enter your life?
When I was a young kid, I'm born in the 90s, early 90s. I'm a 90s baby, right? So I remember the early portion of WWE, like the Superstar era with the neon entrance and all, Bret Hart, the Hart family, the Hart Foundation, the whole Hulk ending tier Hulk Hogan before he made that transition to WCW. I vividly remember that era as a kid, and what really got me and like trapped me in the whole pro wrestling realm of things was learning about the cruiserweights. And in Canada and being where I am, I'm thankful I was able to not only just see WWE, but also see the alternative side of pro wrestling. I see a lot of people, especially the younger generation, all they know is WWE. Back then it was WWF. So I knew about WWF, WCW, and it was the cruiserweights. So like Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrero, Eddie Guerrero, the likes of the cruiserweight division is what really trapped me into pro wrestling. Of course, like the Bret Harts, the Shawn Michaels, the Ric Flairs, Mr. Perfects of the world, Undertaker, you name it. But it was the cruiserweights, that division, that really trapped me. And then learning about ECW and then AAA and CMLL, because the Latin channel that we have out here. So being able to just searching through and then seeing the six-sided ring earlier in those early era of the luchador and the essence of that, that's what's like, oh, there's more. And that's what trapped me into pro wrestling, is that early, I'd say like mid-90s, late 90s, going to 2000s era.
So how were you actually introduced to it? Was it a family thing? Was it a social thing with friends? Did you just stumble upon it yourself?
Definitely family. It's family. I come from a multicultural family, so Jamaican and Italian family. As my nonna, she had it on at one point in time, and that's when I first caught on to it. And then my grandma also was watching it as well on the other side. So I was definitely entranced to like the grandparents, and then my parents. My dad was a fan of it. He actually was a mechanic, so every now and then working downtown, when the big shows would come, he'd get tickets to certain pro wrestling shows. So I was lucky enough to see WWF live when it come to town, and my dad was able to get like the nosebleed tickets, and we'd go, and that was like a bonding moment for us when I was younger. So it's definitely the family. The family got me into it, and as they grew out of it, it still stick into the heart right here.
That's awesome that you got to experience live events at an early age. Was there any part of that, maybe even just the energy of the crowd, that you were like, wow, this is so much better than on TV. I want to be part of it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I remember there was like one of those side like B shows that WWF used to do at the time. I remember with those like Saturday night main events and those Cops Coliseum era, when they do those side B shows, they had one of those that was happening downtown. I was able to see that with my dad. That was the first experience. And then the actual big extravagant experience that I vividly was like, I will never forget this, was catching WrestleMania X8, which was like in the nosebleeds, but I was able to still experience that whole Mania experience at a young age. So seeing that at that age, at a young age as a kid, and then with Pops and seeing his reaction to like the big stage of things and seeing the evolution of where WWF has gone at the time was insane.
Did you have a favorite match from that show?
Definitely. I'd say The Rock Hogan, and then like the TLCs when the transition was going into that. Yeah, man, the icon clash.
Yeah, I still remember I went to watch X8 at a friend's house, and it was like one of the first times that his dad had watched wrestling in years because Hogan was on it, and it was like almost a crossing of the generations, and it was just such an amazing show. Did you have like a favorite performer back then that you just love the shows, love the matches, but this one is just my absolute favorite?
Definitely, I'd say like The Rock, but like Rey Mysterio was the one, and there is always the one. The Rock was a favorite of mine. Obviously, Bret Hart being the Canadian, yeah, the Bret Hart love is always in your heart for that. But like I can't really pinpoint that single one. It's a tie between like the Bret Hart, The Rock, and like Rey Mysterio, and then eventually Booker T grew on over that time. But yeah, if I really had to pick one, it'd be Rey Mysterio.
That's awesome. Did you get a chance prior to getting into the industry to also go to an independent show, or was it pretty much just like the big name WWE stuff before you had kind of discovered that world?
Oh no, I definitely going into like my teenage years, especially when you first get your license and you're getting your car and stuff like that. That was one of the things that I explore and do, was just like trying to check out the independent scene that was happening locally. Because again, I was always like hip and noted about the alternative promotions from a younger age. I never just knew it was just WWF. I always knew there was WCW. I knew there was ECW, like I mentioned earlier, and the luchador promotions, and then I learned about the Japanese promotions, the New Japan, and Noah. So I knew there was always alternatives outside of WWF and WWE. So I wanted to find out if there was more alternative during the ending period of WCW being bought out, and then that stale era of WWE, where it's like there needs to be more. Finding about ROH and TNA, CZW, that era, that transitional era, Chikara, PWG. Finding out about that era, I want to figure out, is there more alternatives locally? And that's when I started to explore throughout the city. And obviously, when ROH had their War of the Worlds events and tours, they'd bring that over here, whereas a crossover between ROH and New Japan. They'd always hold that out here in Toronto. And I definitely would go and check out those shows. And through those shows, I learned about Smash Wrestling, and I'd be going to Smash Wrestling shows. I started to just circulate and start to learn more and more about the scene out here, the independent scene.
Did you have an opportunity when you were going to those independent shows to kind of have a little bit more of like a intimate interaction with a performer that you might not have gotten in the WWE, whether it was like at the merch table or just kind of, dapping them up after a match to let them know that you enjoyed it, and that you probably wouldn't have gotten from such a distance with the big companies?
I don't know if Evil Uno remembers this, but I remember having like a little like dance off with Evil Uno at one point. Back in the day when I was younger, I remember the ending tour of Kevin Owens and the AJ Styles clash that happened at the E Zone. I remember my first seminar. This was my transitioning now, trying to figure out, okay, how do I get involved in pro wrestling? My first seminar and like first real interaction. I'd go to Battle Arts when it first opened, but I was more for exercise. I was just getting in and out of it just for fun, but I was never taking pro wrestling serious. But my first seminar was at Smash Wrestling when it was SummerSlam weekend, and Zack Sabre Jr. was hosting a seminar. That was my first like main interaction, and Chris Hero, I remember, was there as well, and various like Veda Scott, Brett Banks, etc. Like Tarek, all the notarized like guys there. They were like in their growing periods there at Smash Wrestling. And I remember that seminar and meeting Frankie the Mobster backstage when they gave us the tour around and just showed us how the inner side of things worked on the other side of the curtain, right? So I feel like that was that main experience. Was like, I feel like, yeah, that was my real connection with the pro wrestling scene outside of just watching it.
Did you remember having like a catalyst or a moment or something that happened where you were just like, I'm going to go to this seminar? Or was it, I always wanted to do this and now's the opportunity? Like, was there something that triggered you going there?
Oh, definitely. Because I was definitely hunting down to figure it out, because like I was into like the E-Feds and the COD communities and the Creator Pro Wrestler on like the video games. And then like searching around online, just trying to figure out different promotions that are happening in the scene. I just did my own research, right? And eventually I found out about Squared Circle, and that was Rafiego's school at the time. And I just wanted to just try it out. I was about to graduate high school at the time and just about to start my first year of college. And I was just going to go just see it. I ended up getting to the area and the place was closed. I'm like, oh, no, it's done. This will never happen. My dreams are shattered. It stops here, man. Eventually, I ended up hearing about Battle Arts, and that's when I ended up finding out Battle Arts, and I ended up going up to the grand opening and seeing some of the WWE talent that were there at the time, and I was like, okay, now I can take advantage of this opportunity. And that's when I met Santino Marella's father. And I found out about, like, text this number, you get like a free week pass or whatever. So I texted between like my phone, my sister's phone, my dad's phone, my mom's phone. So I get a full month, and I just built a relationship over them. So there was this overtime. His dad be like, just go in. And that's when I started to, over that brief course of time, I started to get little tastes of the pro wrestling training. And that's when I got the bug really started to bite me there. And I was like, I got to get involved with this. And then school and like life responsibilities got in the way, and I kind of like drifted away from it. Graduating college, etc. After that, I ended up getting back into it around 2020. But then the pandemic ended up happening, and then everything was locked off.
So how did the pandemic impact your actual training? Did you have to put it on hold, or had you not actually started yet on more of like a regular full-time basis? You just only had those like tastes of free weeks and stuff like that.
Well, I got like the first year or so in. So it was like I got my first like official match with Battle Arts was 2020, like the day after my birthday. September 11th, September 12th, they had like two shows, September 12th and the 13th. So I did those two. I was on those two shows. I wrestled on those two shows. And that was like my first, like, okay, I'm in. I got the okay. And from there, did a couple little joint ventures, but I was still paying my dues, helping out, tearing down, like I said, going what I can from show to show, learning and just scouting the scene to see where like I fit in and what would work with me, and just networking and getting to know people. That was like a big part about the first year. And like the only couple promotions I worked for was like the Rising Star shows and Junction City Wrestling with Freedom McRae. And that was like the little balance I had there. And then the lockdown happened, and we couldn't do anything. But under the table, I was able to get into the facility and still learn my reps. So thankfully, during that time where everything was locked down, we weren't able to physically work shows. I was still training. So I was just taking what I was learned within the first year, what I was learned with amongst my peers. That's why I met Jackson Roy, member of Dynasty, and we worked together, a couple of the other guys throughout Battle Arts, and we just grinded it out. A group of six to four of us grinded it out throughout the whole pandemic, just putting it out 3 days from what we learned throughout that brief period of time, and we just put in the work until things was opened up again.
So that's when you met Jackson and you guys started working together. I'm guessing that there was probably kind of like a chemistry between you two. How did you actually decide to start kind of becoming what would be Dynasty?
So that happened, I believe, 2021. Yes, around 2021. That's when I met Jackson Roy, and he was coming in a bit after me. I already had a couple years ahead of him, but I was already familiar with like Sway Arch and a couple of the guys, like the first generation of guys that were at Battle Arts ahead of me. So I was like kind of like the middle child of like the new generation that was coming in after the pandemic and during the pandemic. So we just clicked. Similar Caribbean backgrounds, Jamaican multicultural backgrounds, amateur wrestling background. He has more of amateur wrestling experience than I do. So we just connected on that level, just rolling and just having a good chemistry, just training and just connecting on that regard, and the slow build of the new shows that are happening with Rising Stars with our head coach at the time, Asylum or Rockstone, Stone Rockwell. Nick Andrews. He was leading the path, and he gave us like full creative. He came up to me and was like, have you had the idea of being part of a tag team, starting a group, being a manager? I was like, these are all things that I wanted to do, because I see being a multi-dimensional player throughout the pro wrestling industry. I just didn't want to just single myself as just in-ring pro wrestler. I'm open to doing the magic. I'm open to learning things behind the scenes. So coming up with that opportunity, I was just like, yeah, I'm going to jump to it. I pitched a couple of names to him, and Dynasty is what stuck with all of us, and it's like, yeah, this works. First couple people that I thought of was obviously Jackson with that chemistry I had with him, and meeting Sway earlier, he was another guy that I had in mind as well. And building the first couple shows that we did together with Jackson, we realized that we had something going. And then it was like the storm was coming. This was about November, either 2022 or 2021. And that was one of our big comeback shows for Rising Stars. And that's when we actually made the full splash that this is official, this is Dynasty. And we're off to the running from there.
I've had the pleasure of getting to watch you perform before, and you are very involved with the crowd. You're very vocal. You really seem to put a focus on that character work. And that's not to take anything away from your in-ring. That's absolutely fantastic. But clearly now, hearing the story about Dynasty, have you always been kind of like a creative leader, kind of pitching ideas, forwarding things forward, and like kind of just making ideas become realities?
I guess you can say so. I mean, I've been doing that just in like my real life, whether it's my shoot jobs. My mentality has always been from a young age is just always figure out a way to monetize your hobbies. And if you're able to figure out a way where you can make some sort of living off the things that you love and you enjoy, then you're winning in life. And that's the beauty of existence, right? Being able to create your visions from your visions and producing from it. So just pro wrestling and having an acting background, I realized that this is the best place of bringing combat and theater together and creating stories. And that's a big thing with me. I like to create stories. I like to see things out. I like to just have that idea and just formulate it, mold it in a way, and evict and create moments and emotions for the people and those that are invested in it. So yeah, this is something that I've had from a young age, from writing stories and storylines and pitching stuff from a young age in theater classes to college and radio broadcasting and starting my own media company and building that, to acting and having an acting background and transitioning that into DJing as well. So like, yeah, just be multifaceted and just always creating alternatives and innovative ideas has always been a big thing of me, a thing of mine as well.
So this isn't necessarily the easiest question to answer all the time, but obviously with so much involvement and so much care, if somebody was to go to a show that Dynasty, specifically yourself, was on, what would be kind of like the lasting impression that you would want them to walk away with about you as a performer?
I can take you on an emotional roller coaster. I can either take you from the highs of excitement, whether it's my in-ring ability and either the beating that I'm taking, or the high-flying ability, or the technical skills where I'm manipulating a body part and trying to force my opponent to tap, or hitting a spiral tap from off the top rope. Evicting that emotion, creating a moment that when you walk away from that show, you're going to remember that. Yeah, I feel like that's like the biggest aim for me in any avenue, is that you're going to remember that lasting moment, that lasting impression, whether it's the in-ring ability or the emotional roller coaster that I take you on.
So let's talk about a moment for yourself then. Was there a match, an opponent, a segment, anything in particular that stood out once you became a performer that was just like the highlight, that you, almost like a surreal moment, like I can't believe I'm cutting a promo on this person, or I can't believe I'm hitting this move on this person, like just any sort of moment that really stood out to you as like a highlight of the career so far?
Man, it's been a few. I can't be upfront about that. I'd say one of those was like the ladder match that we had with IWS in Montreal. That was a surreal moment, from just coming from an era where you're influenced off of the Jeff Hardys and the Hardy Boys, the Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys, that whole tag team division era, and the TLCs, and now you're basically in one. And then looking up at the top and you see the championships up there, and then you're in this big theater arena with thousands of people in there, basically. It's like, man, that's when it really hit me that anything is possible here. I feel like that was like one of those moments. I feel like one of those moments that really stuck out to me. Another one was interaction with Tuco Scorpio. I'd say like outside the ring, when we went out to Philly, that WrestleMania moment, and experiencing Mania on the floor and being involved with the talent and just mixing and mingling with the different talent throughout that weekend, to the GCW and WrestleCon weekend, and experiencing that not just as a fan but also as a wrestler as well. And yeah, I also feel like first time wrestling this year in the States, that was also another experience that, like, man, we're really on the right path. All the guys in Dynasty, we all finding successes, winning championships together. And when we took that pitch together, we had all the titles displayed from multiple different promotions, whether it was Crossbody, Destiny, or Battle Arts, the Rising Stars division and championship. Just the success, the series of success, and seeing the growth from where I've started till now. Yeah, man, I'm just happy. Appreciate it.
I love ladder matches too, but I'll leave that for you guys because I don't want to see how real the bumps and bruises are for that.
Man.
So what would you say is kind of like your next goal in wrestling? Maybe not your ultimate goal or your final destination or anything like that, but what would be kind of like the next thing that you would like to kind of check off the bucket list?
I definitely, not like, seeing that we've now been making appearances and doing TV tapings and wrestling on TV, and seeing our work not only on like IWTV and online, but actually on cable TV. We want to take that next step of just being international. Myself, I'd love to go and make rounds in Mexico and enrich myself into the luchador scene and style, and then transition to the UK and get real tapped in with the world of sport, the mat technician side of me out there, and then eventually make the pathway to Japan and really make an international splash. I definitely look towards either getting signed or a contract down the line. I feel like that's a goal for any wrestler. I mean, you're in this industry to leave a legacy, make some sort of history in some sort of way, and no pun intended, but definitely down the line eventually want to get a contract and be signed. That's eventually a goal. Being able to create in this pro wrestling craft internationally, that is the ultimate goal I'm looking forward to.
That's awesome. Do you have any aspirations of also helping like a younger generation with getting into the industry, kind of learning the ropes? Do you see yourself in kind of maybe like a mentorship role one day?
Oh, definitely. I see myself touching base on various aspects behind the scenes in pro wrestling down the line as I get older. I'm not just relying, like I said, on just the in-ring side of pro wrestling. I like to see and play the long game in any craft I'm involved in, or any venture I'm involved in. I like to see the long game. I like to have a 5, 10-year, 20-year plan. So within pro wrestling, I definitely want to give back in that way. Thankfully, with the likes of Battle Arts Academy, there's a lot of new faces that are coming in and out that are training. So at the level that we're at, my generation is at, we sometimes find ourselves that we sometimes are helping some of the new faces that are coming in with how to lock up, how to apply a wrist hold, how to apply a key lock, how to run an international. And in those little ways, it's like, oh, man, yeah, I can definitely see myself giving back to the youth and the next generation that's coming up down the line, because in this little trinkets of opportunities that I'm helping out some of the guys here, the guys and gals here, it's like, man, yeah, in a coaching aspect or in a agent aspect, a producer role, for sure.
So let's step away from the ring for a little bit. You have an opportunity to unwind. You're not working on anything, for like a project. What kind of hobbies or pastimes do you have to just kind of, recharge the batteries and relax a little bit sometimes?
Oh, I'm definitely, I like documentaries. I like podcasts. I'm definitely tapped in on that. Music, avid music listening from all sorts of genres, whether it's house, UKG, obviously the reggae, gold, dancehall, rock, classic rock, you name it. Like, I'm always digging for gems, whether it's vinyl or on digital on SoundCloud, and creating my mixes and DJing, whether it's not for work period, but just at home, just vibing out, creating my own mixes just to just cruise out and just relax to. You can always find me doing that, keeping active, whether it's exercising, that's always a given. Outside of training, then roller derby, that's been another thing that's came back into me. I like getting my little ATL roller derby, skating around the rink. I've been getting back into that. The little disco 70s vibes have been hitting me lately. So that's been a good little hobby and pastime with me. Concerts, checking out some shows. I'm going to be seeing like the next K-Tronada concert coming up. I'm probably going to be seeing the Marley Family Legacy concert tour that's going to be coming up soon. So definitely being avid within this scene of just music, culture, and the arts. Also just checking out independent shows. Like I said, like still the fan and the love of the industry is in my heart. So whether it's independent movies, documentaries, releases, or independent wrestling shows or boxing or MMA shows, I'm always in the loop and keeping active on that end.
So you obviously have a very deep passion for both wrestling and music. So I have to ask the importance of getting the right entrance theme. How involved were you in those decisions, and how important are they for you just to kind of get into the right vibe and to set the right tone for any sort of upcoming matches?
Oh, I believe like your entrance can either make or break you. That's the moment where all eyes are on you. That's your moment, your one moment at any point in the match, whether you're going over or not, where all eyes from the audience, the commentary team, the cameras, the photography team, everybody, their eyes are on you. So that's your moment to capture them and really either get the audience on your side or really get that audience to really hate you. And that can build a momentum into your match. So music is a key thing, helping you either hype you up and wash off those nerves before you go through that curtain, or to just light that fire on in you when you're making that last little walk before you make that entrance into that ring. And that connection with the people too. Nothing more than having a good theme that like gets the crowd to sing along or have you chanting and grooving and bopping with you on your way out. Yeah, the entrance is key, man. Entrance is key for your character or whatever gimmick or portrayal that you're trying to go with.
I know the beginning of the Dynasty theme, like for me, that first like musical blare just kind of grips you, right?
Yeah.
Gets you into it. Did you have a big part in picking that song?
Oh yeah. Like I had a set couple of songs, and that's the one thing with me. I believe like it's the thing that I learned in college as well, through radio and broadcasting with commercials and just advertising is like the jolts per minute. So it's like just catching the audience's attention. There's a couple milliseconds or seconds, like 3 seconds or so, to catch that ear of an audience, where someone's going to be invested to be like, I want to hear more. What else is going on here? Ooh, what's going on? So I feel like any chord where it's a nice riff of a guitar, a synth, a nice drum pattern, a vocal progression, a combination of all that can catch you within that 3 to 5 second mark, that can catch your audience and trap your audience on whatever ride you want to take them on this journey.
So before we close off, I just want to get into something a little bit more off the wall. Big fan of documentaries, big fan of music. How about you recommend to us one documentary and one album that is maybe kind of off the grid a little bit more, not as well known, but you absolutely have to give it a shout out?
Documentary-wise, it's going to be a tough one. Well, I'd say for now, for pro wrestling in general, whether you're a fan or not, I'd say the Mr. McMahon docuseries. McMahon docuseries, definitely go and check that one out. I feel like that's a good one. Just in the sense of just seeing just the evolution, just an entertainment creative genius, but also an evil genius at the same time. And like I'm like a horror buff as well. I do have a conspiracy side of me, so I don't want to like throw a bunch of conspiracy documentaries at people. But like the Mr. McMahon docuseries, it's new, it's fresh. I feel like that's something that documents the transitional period of just the pro wrestling industry within like a 60 to 70 year time frame from his family through the territory era to now. That's a good one. And then music wise, I'd like to put people on like a couple new genres actually. So like I've been listening to a lot of Amapiano, which is like South African house music. So definitely Amapiano. Amapiano has been a big thing that I've been listening to lately. And like I said, Kitchenada. Kitchenada is a concert I'm going to be going catching out to. He's a Montreal housey disco funk DJ. Definitely dope listen to.
Before we close out, could I just ask you to once again let people know who you are and where they can maybe find you online for future bookings or for just a follow or anything like that?
I am Mikey Truth, one of the founding members of Dynasty. You can catch me on all social medias at Mikey.Truth. I'm available for bookings going right through the rest of 2024 and all the opening early part of 2025 as we can't believe it. The year is almost about to wrap up. Can you believe that? But yeah, you can catch me on all social medias, Mikey Truth. We got a couple of shows going to be coming out to round out from Crossbody's 8th year anniversary. We got the Destiny TV tapings that are going to be coming out. You can keep up to date with that. We buried mystery shows somewhere, somehow. We might be in the mix of that. We got our Norfolk debut that's going to be coming up as well. NCG. We got a lot. Just keep up to date on the dates. Follow all my socials at Mikey Truth.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And shout out all my Dynasty folk. Jackson Roy, Sway Archer, D. Smith. Salute to Xavier Walker. All you love. Diamonds Up Worldwide. Thank you again. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Independent Wrestling Profiles. Please help out the show if you can with a like, subscription, or review. We'll see you next time.